Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking. As always, thank you all who decided to support me financially on Patreon. And let's start with Bakhmut. Situation in Bakhmut is interesting and difficult. The fog of war is becoming thicker and thicker, not only over the city, but also the entire war. There is an interesting situation with Wagner and its leader Prigozhin. There are news of a possible Ukrainian counteroffensive, so there is a lot to talk about. First of all, about Prigozhin. Basically, he made two videos in the recent few days. One where he was yelling and cussing at a Ministry of Defense, and the other one when he stated that because of a heavy losses that his Wagner PMC have sustained and Ministry of Defense inability or unwillingness to help them with supplies, he is to be retreating from Bakhmut on the 10th of May. There are also two scenarios that I believe are equally possible, and only time will show which one is. Scenario number one, he is being genuine. Ever since war have started, the only successful army group that was achieving anything, it was PMC Wagner. At first, they were able to successfully capture a heavily fortified city of Popasna, after which they were able to capture similarly fortified Solidar, and now they are about to take Bakhmut, which is also extremely fortified city. The unwillingness of Ministry of Defense to support Wagnerites with needed equipment could be an indication of jealousy and that they are trying to throw Prigozhin under the bus. The second option, of course, goes along with a famous quote by Sun Tzu, a famous Chinese general and philosopher. Appear weak when you are strong, and appear strong when you are weak. We all remember how prior to a massive success here to the west of the rail lines, even before Russians were able to capture this depot and this entire portion of a city, Wagnerites were also complaining about a lack of ammunition and shells. We didn't see that happening as strikes within Bakhmut had intensified, and Wagnerites themselves were able to capture so much territory within just 1 week. So perhaps this is a coy way of Wagnerites to prepare for the final stage of the battle, to storm this sector right here, this sector, and this sector right here. In fact, although there are no territorial changes here within Bakhmut, heavy fighting is ongoing. There are heavy fighting happening here along the Vyzvolitely Donbass street and the street right here. Also, Russians are continuously trying to attack and capture the post office and Olympic school. Heavy clashes are also reported here around Khromova and 00506 highway. Now, about this fortified sector itself, there is a video of Russians using incendiary rounds to basically smoke out Ukrainian forces out of this sector. So again, perhaps as I speak, Russians are conducting heavy artillery shellings and storming these positions. The Russian attempts to do that is being also well reported by pro-Ukrainian sources. Ukrainian side, of course, is trying to counterattack Russians where they can, especially here in this sector and here in this sector near Chukovsky Street, but that seems to be not working as of right now, as Russians and Wagnerites are continuously holding positions they were able to gain a week ago. There is a video of a aftermath of Russian shellings of this sector with incendiary rounds. If you want to know exactly where this happens, we can see a clear identification, this weird Churtos-like shaped building, two buildings in front of it, another one here, and a regular residential area. If in fact this is this place right here, overall a center of this overall sector. Here we can see that said building, two in front, another one here, and the residential area. So it's safe to say that this entire sector is on fire. Here is a video of it would seem like it's morning, so the bombing were at night, and this is the morning and aftermath. So again, this to me doesn't look like a lack of any ammunition. In fact, incendiary ammunition is a rare one, and also, as far as I know, expensive. So perhaps the second option of all this Prigozhin and Wagner ordeal is most possible. However, there are reports coming in that Evgeny Prigozhin is already contacting representatives of Kadyrov to start basically a rotation. A rotation may happen for the other reasons, also because don't forget that Wagnerites were been fighting in this war without any rest since its beginning. So a good rest is logical. But yeah, that's the overall situation here in Bakhmut and situation with Prigozhin. You go ahead and go to the comment section and tell me which of the two possible scenarios are probable. Now, there's one more thing I want to say about Chechen fighters, following the fact that they might replace Wagnerites within Bakhmut. There are also, it seems, fighting in Belokharivka or Belogorovka. If you remember in yesterday's video, I've been discussing how there's a fighting happening here for this plant, and this is where Chechen fighters are reported to be fighting in. As of right now, Russians are still fighting for the overall control over this area to the northeast to this hill or mountain. So there are some Chechen soldiers. They're not filming TikToks, it would seem. There's also interesting news coming from Avdiivka. If we zoom in here, we can see there is a industrial zone here in the outskirts of Avdiivka. And for some time, Russians have been fighting here as well. However, there were no territorial changes. There are no territorial changes as of right now, but some reports are coming in of a somewhat local but success of a DPR forces here within this area. Then we quickly go to Mariinka. The source for this news are coming from a deep state, so a pro-Ukrainian source, but it is interesting nevertheless. Here, unfortunately, there's no video, but there is a photo. Here you can see Russians are using Solntsepyok, or TOS-1, to smoke out and destroy any Ukrainian remains within what's left of Mariinka. You can see by the gray area that Ukrainians are controlling perhaps the last 5% of Mariinka, and those 5% of Mariinka is being heavily bombarded. So we might see a positive change for Russians in Mariinka sooner than later. There are more reports coming in about a possible Ukrainian counteroffensive. There are more interesting news coming in about upcoming Ukrainian counteroffensive. Perhaps Prigozhin's play or a performance is in line with a weird way of confusing Ukrainians. Again, appear weak when you're strong. Perhaps they are trying to lure Ukrainian forces here to Bakhmut and divert their attacks to the Zaporozhye front. It would seem that the evacuation is still ongoing. It is started about 2 weeks ago, and now it's reaching its peak as Russians evacuate as much civilians as possible away from the possible front line. While we're here, we can visit Vuglidar. It has been reported that Ukrainians have attempted to conduct several counter-attacks here within the Dacha area, and after some local success within it, they tried to attack towards Mykolaevsky and Pavlivka, but that didn't see any success. So we can see how overall Ukrainians are trying to become more active and intensify their attacks, for example, here around Vuglidar and here around Arikhev. That goes with a Ukrainian activization in Bakhmut and Seversk, as they were able to gain more footholds here near Verkhnekamiansky and Spirne. We can see that the entire front line is becoming more active, but once again, time will be the judge of that. So this is the end of the video. If you liked it, please consider supporting this video with a like, comment, and a subscription. Also, don't forget to ring that notification bell. If you feel extra generous, please consider joining my Patreon. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.